Happy Monday, everybody. We have a ton of stuff to go through. So we've got a bunch of images, we have videos, we have questions, we've got all kinds of good stuff. Off the top, I want to announce as a Academy of Animated Arts student, you guys now have access to our Intro to Maya class. I think we're going to release that publicly this week. We are doing a final check. Sylvain, thank you for discovering that Autodesk accepted our bid to be an accredited school. So you, as an Academy of Animated Arts student, it looks like you will have access to download their free education version, which is awesome. We're just testing it out now to make sure that it works, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Okay, so, oh man, I just jinxed it, didn't I? Okay, we're still testing it out. Okay, here we go. So to start, I want to start with a question. Then I want to hop over to Nuke to show you guys something that Jordan was asking about. Then we can go through videos and finally onto the images. Okay, so first question was from Forrest. So he was asking, I'm currently working on setting up look dev for a scene. I have separate Maya files that have the characters in a T-pose, but the characters are not in T-pose in the role of the animated scene. How would you suggest I go about setting up look dev? Okay, so traditionally, it sounds like there was a T-pose that was referenced in, and then the shaders were added there and animated. If that's the case, that sucks, because traditionally what you do is you create an asset file like the character in a T-pose with all the shaders and everything applied, and you can do look dev there. And then that can get imported into the file, and then you're animating from there. If that hero file, if that main file that's being referenced in, if you cannot add the shaders there and those don't get read in the reference editor, then you're a little bit in a tough spot, because then I think unless there may be a better way of doing this, but the only way that I can think to do this would be to go back to create your look dev file where you can set everything up, then reference that in. And when you reference it in or import it in, you can just import the shaders and then reapply those, because at least the geometry will be the same. And then you can reapply the UVs from there as well. But that's kind of the only way. It's just that it sounds like the way that this was set up may have broken like the way a pipeline works. Yeah, that's kind of my best answer to that. I hope that helps. Okay, so I wanted to go in here. This is from the Intro to Maya class. It's just a little scene that I put together here. You can see it's just the door opens, character comes in, rolls in, and looks out the window here. So the character and the animation and everything we do in class, but one thing that came up from another... There we go. That came up in reference to another another thing that came up was this idea of adding diffusion this way in the comp, and I took this off so you can kind of see it more elaborately. So this is the before, this is the after, and the question was like how this whole thing works. So the way that it works is you've got your image here, right? And what we want to do is we want to isolate the bright part of the image and create like a little bit of a haze, a little bit of a glow on those. So the first thing that we do is we add this Lumic here, and I've adjusted it here, and you can see that it's adjusted what's going on in the alpha channel, because we only want to isolate just the brightest elements of the scene, right? Then what we want to do is we want to, because the RGB value of the scene actually looks exactly the same as the original. It's just that we're adjusting the alpha. What you want to do with that alpha is you want to plug that in here and say that I only want to isolate the colors inside of this bright alpha. So you can see it's kind of blocked off there, but this is going into the A, this is going into the B. The merge operation is in, meaning that I want to take the original image and only isolate it to just the areas in that brightest element. And then what you want to do is you want to blur that a little bit, and then you're going to want to plus that over the top, because you want to add that on top of the thing. Now, what I included here was a gain of 0.1 because I really wanted to tone it down, because I just wanted like a little bit, because you can kind of zoom in here and see it. I just wanted a little bit of extra glow on stuff. I didn't want to just like completely obliterate it. Now, if you don't do this, I'll take this off too, you can see it better. If you don't do this inside, all this Luma key doesn't matter at all, because all you're doing is blurring up the entire image and then plussing it back over the top. So that is what this little stack is doing here. So while it doesn't, like when you have it dialed in just a little bit, it doesn't always, it doesn't make the biggest of differences in terms of color, or in terms of like the overall, but like it does, especially if you're adding a lot of diffusion to something, it will make a big difference. So it's always just good practice to isolate those blowouts to the brighter areas. Okay, let's take a look here. Oh wait, I think this is the old one. Let me go back. Okay. All right, so we've got Ashley, we've got some from Dani, we've got Jordan's demo reels. Okay, so let's start with Ashley and Dani. So let's take a look at this first. Actually, let me just play this through. Okay, this is the shots cut together well, which is nice. I still want to see more of a drastic, like I want, at this point, I want this to be darker back here. And then as she pops through, then it can get up to about this level. And maybe even pushing it a little bit more. Because like imagine, dark room, light streaming in, bouncing up here. Like all this stuff is going to get illuminated more. I would put a bounce card down here, or a bounce light. Like an area light down here, bouncing upward. And animate that brighter as this door opens up. And I think that'll help. Let's take a look at that one a little bit more. So it looks like he's being influenced by, like he's getting a lot of subsurface through his hand. It looks like he's being influenced by this light, but I just don't believe it, because like judging by where it's hitting on the ground, it looks like it's more like in this region here. But like you can see there's a couple frames. Let me go back. Like here he gets super, like it's super red. So I'm not convinced that there should be this much rim on him. I also want to see him get a little bit darker on this side. I think it's close, but I would tone that down just a touch. Going to the outside shot, you want to watch out for, there's some edging going on around the edge of the flower, it looks like. You can see it really, I think, where did that go? Yeah, it's more like around the edge here, maybe a little bit around her. So you may just want to watch out for that. It would be nice if there was some, like a little bit of translucency on the flower. I guess there is a little bit. Yeah, maybe that might be okay. I think this shot's looking pretty good. Depth of field still feels strong. I would tone that down by even less. Just because like you really don't get that many in large outdoor. You really don't get that heavy of a blur in big outdoor spaces like this, especially from stepping back from like this level to this level, because this is like maybe 50 feet away and that's like 100 feet away. And at that level, you wouldn't see that big of a difference. Now you can make the depth of field blur higher here and then pretend like it's tracking with her, and then it goes less, because it actually looks good here. But the second she gets further away from the camera, you can imagine the focus pulling with her, and you can match, and that way it would decrease what's going on there in the background. Colors of the shadow look good. I'm a little worried about the size of the texture on the building. It feels a little bit big. I would maybe try and scale that down by like half. And then if there's anything you can do to break up the look of this, the window reflection up there, I think that'll be really good. All right, same shot for Dani. Very dark here in these first few frames. You definitely don't want it to be quite that dark. I do like her emerging from the shadow, but it's a little bit heavy. So I'm wondering, I guess it's okay. I was wondering because it looks like there's a double shadow in there, but I guess that's okay. I guess we can justify that. Because usually when a character's standing in a shadow, their shadow just blends with the existing shadow. You actually don't see additional stuff. There's that. I like the gobo on the house. I do think that the darker area can be a little bit brighter. I think that, not quite as much contrast there. And not so much darkness on the back of her. Like, let's try and lift that just a little bit. Again, outdoor scene. And the last thing I would really like for you to work on is getting some more shaping on the trees that are just in shadow. Like, this shadow is very flat. This tree is pretty flat coming across here. And these guys back here could just use a little bit, if they're not getting hit by direct sunlight, get a little bit of shaping in there from the key side. It doesn't have to be like hard sunlight. You just don't want them to kind of be mid-tone gray back there. I think it's good. I think that's good for this next step. But yeah, so lighten the shadows in here and on her. Get some more shaping on those trees. And I would peel back. Oh, that was the other thing. The volumetric light on here, I would peel back off of the house just a little bit. Just because it's like, yeah, just peel it back just a touch. And yeah, same thing with the reference. Because you can see this house is about the same distance away as this one. And this one has a lot more of that volumetric on it, where you want this to be pretty clean, if that's going to be our focus, and let the volumes pick up back there. All right, Jordan, we've got, well, first off, I think this is just a shot. Turn the sound off. It's not already. Yeah. I think the shot itself is looking pretty good. I would maybe lighten this chicken back here just a little bit, just to, because it's like it just feels like it would be a little bit lighter and just like a different shade than that fence. It's just and same thing with the one on the other side, because it's just, at first it feels like there's something moving in the background that's wrong, and as opposed to something separate from the fence itself. So I wouldn't want someone looking at that quickly and being like, oh, they made a mistake. Actually, I want to look at something here. Oh, it's the board's moving. Sorry. But the rest of it I think is looking really good. If you could get some specularity on the child's skin, that would be great, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay, but I do want to talk about your demo reels, because it was something that came up, because you were questioning whether or not you should put the image first. And I'll go ahead and play out the audio here, just so we can hear it, because it matters for this. So one of the things you were questioning was like, I've got this music playing here at the beginning. It feels odd that it cuts off and then goes to the audio of this. And what I said to you was that usually for lighting demo reels, unless the audio plays specifically into the lighting, you don't need it. Like, I would just take out the audio and just make it like the song throughout the whole thing. And if you need the audio, just decrease the volume of the song a little bit, put the audio track in there. And that way you can, because it just like really helps the whole thing flow. So even if it was at the beginning and you had the audio and then the music start, it would still feel kind of choppy. All right, so that's all of our videos. We've got our question done there. So now I want to get into some of these images. Aaron, this is a good start. I like your reference here. One of the things I really want to point out is some of the variation by these specular puddles on the ground, and like just the kind of variation in the street. I think that this one would really benefit from that. Just some more breakup in here. It feels a little too clean, a little too perfect as you continue to add shaders. From the lighting standpoint, the thing with these is I'm not convinced that there's light inside of them. Do you see how it's like brighter up top and kind of darker on the bottom? It makes it feel like there's light coming in here, and I want to feel the light inside of them. And this one here too, it just feels like the shader is kind of glowy. versus like there actually being like a light source in the middle, the way that I feel it here, right? So that would be a big one. And then you want to get some of these, light, like these kind of volumetric light rays coming down to really kind of feel the moisture in the air, and kind of an overall glowiness. So those are a few things I'd like to see you work on to keep continuing to build on this. But this is a good reference, good start. I love the little bit of lighting back here on the masks. I think that looks really cool. But I just think there's a little more we can add to it to really start to beef it up. Adrian, so this is the good first attempt with the shaders in place. Skin on his face looks really good. I want to create more difference between his skin in here and this in here and his cape. So I want the cape to go a little bit darker and his skin to match up a little bit more with his face skin. So a little bit more of that redness in there if you can. As the light's shining through this way, it would be really great to get some subsurface, some backlighting kind of punching through there and scattering through there. And then on the hat, I like the shaping coming across. These two colors are a little too similar, so I'm wondering if we shouldn't try and neutralize one of them, maybe this one a little bit more. And then watch out, this is getting a little bit bright in there. The framing on this is a little odd because we're cutting off the collar here. And then there's like a lot of dead space over here. So I feel like we can shift him that way a little bit. Let's see where the hat is. Yeah. Also, we're kind of losing the top of the hat. And I would also consider pitching up the camera and rotating it around this way a little bit, just so we can start to see a little bit of that other eye. But I'll let you be the judge of that. But it's just the framing of this feels a little off balance to me. All right, Amy. This is looking really great. I love like the subtle colors on here and the shaping you're getting on here. I think that I would neutralize this light and make it more white and less saturated, just because it's like all your other colors are so crisp. But there's something about that's kind of murkying, and I think it's like the warm light over the blue background is making it kind of gray out visually. And I think that we can push. I would just make that light a little bit more neutralized. But I love the shaping you're getting in some of these guys in the shadows. And then for next steps, I would also try and get a little bit of subtle light on these two's faces, just to like kind of tie that all in. If it needs to be bounce light coming up in there, great. Or just something to kind of highlight their faces a little bit stronger. And yeah, I would start there, and I think that would be a good step in your next progress. All right, Dani. So we've got a couple images here for you. So with this floor, it's much darker. It's picking up much more of the reflections of the light. And I think that lack of specularity and do you see how there's reflections from the pews themselves in the ground? It would be really cool to start getting some of that stuff in there. And then the I guess it's kind of being hit by direct light, but it's just a little bit more subtle. I think that we might have to adjust the brightness on that. Also, weren't we going to put in some sky back there? Maybe I missed that one. But I do think that's better on the ground. We're kind of leading back. This is the crown is now popping a lot more. I think it can go even brighter. I think you can get more fill in there. Even if it's a little surreal, I guess, you can do that. It would also be cool. Like this is now dark, and I think that helps it read better. But you might be able to like squeeze just like a little, like not super key light, but just like a little bit more light in here. That would be fatal on the edge, and that would create some more dynamic shaping in that region. I'm trying to think of like it's pretty You know, the other thing is like, I'm still not feeling like the bounce of this light coming back in the space. Like, if we look at this reference, you see how it's brighter towards the bottom here? Like if you just look down here, like those bricks versus these bricks, much cooler and more influenced by the light that's bouncing up underneath. They're not being hit by direct sunlight versus what's up here, which is influenced by these guys. So I think that you can get a little bit more of the light like bouncing into some of these darker values. And then since there are no artificial lights, like all of this area up here would get a little bit, I mean, you know, once we get some more brightness down here, those might look good. But I think that would definitely help. And then in terms of out of these back windows, a note would be to just showcase a little bit more, like maybe give it maybe an image out there or something. But, you know, we can deal with that later. For now, let's focus on the interior, and then we can build the world outside a little stronger too. For this one, again, this is looking good back here. It's good positioning on that bench. Let's see where that goes. Sorry, I'm just looking at this versus like this shape. That might be problematic. I think it's okay. Maybe just scooch that over a little bit more. So the pole's more like in here. Okay, and this is looking good in here. The big one now is we've got a bunch of light wrap around these buildings back here, and it looks really pretty. But then as we get in the foreground, there's much less to possibly even none. I would work on getting a little bit, like 30% of the value of the light wrap on these back buildings on some of this stuff, just to get like a little bit around here. And that will really start pulling that together. I still feel like, I guess because the grass is cool, I don't know. It still feels like that the light in the foreground isn't that warm. But it might be. This is a really tricky one with all this blue, this blue playground equipment. I'm wondering if there's a way we can sneak some light onto these guys to give them some shaping as they go across. Maybe it's like pretending like there's some light. It's kind of far away, but I was like light bouncing off of something and just creating, you know what, you could just create some subtle shaping on here with like a soft fill light that's actually a spotlight that's focused in on that region and coming in from this side. Because I think that you could afford to do a little bit more shaping in there. And yeah, I think that's a good next step going forward. So good job there. Diana, these are really cool. I like the ground plugged up. I mean, I certainly respect your Mario Karting ways, but I just think that visually it grounds the image a little bit stronger and really helps out. The one thing about this image that you could try looking into too is maybe trying to get a little bit of scatter coming through these cucumbers. That I think that would be like even a little bit of a plus up one for this, because I think that would look really nice. For this one, I do like the more depth of field, but I think that's yeah, I do like the more depth of field, but I think that I think we should stop there. This image is looking really great. Same thing though. I would like maybe a little backscatter with these cucumbers, maybe just like just so they feel a little wetter and a little more with subsurface. I think the salmon roe is looking good. And then for this on top here, I would try and same thing, like treat it like it's almost like a ginger and a little bit of transparency on that. But really, really beautiful stuff. Yeah. All right, Jeff. So we've got this was your previous version. This is your updated. I actually like the previous a little bit better. I like the stronger push of this light. I also, so in these orbs, I guess I just have a question about what's glowing them. Like, are they being illuminated by the sun? Are they like beach balls and they're just kind of glowing up? Or is there a light source in there? Because if there's a light source in there, I think we should, similar to Aaron's reference with these lantern lights, I think that we could also push in some light sources here in the middle of these guys. And then I do, just because there's so much, like this orange thing is so close to them, I almost want to see a little bit of that warm influence on some of these guys, and probably the boat too, you know, just to feel a little bit more of that presence in the scene. And yeah, because like the ship itself feels very blue. And I think let's use a darker one. Oh, sorry. I think we could definitely go a little bit warmer on this stuff to make it feel a little bit more in the space. And take this down. Nope, that's not what I meant. All right, but I think that will help out a lot. Something more along that color scheme, but really, like, again, really great job. You've worked really quickly on that one. All right, Kat. Let's see, we've got your previous version updated. Update looks a lot better. I'm not worried about those floating stuff. That happens more than you can imagine in animated films. There's always like floating props around the set that needed to be grounded. So don't even stress about that right off the bat. So let's see. So if we can increase the shadow, the radius of the light from the sun, I think that would help. I'm just looking at this shadow down here on the ground. It's a little bit tight. I like this shadow coming across here. It helps focus us in on her face. I do think... I'm trying to think about the play out of the shot, because she's getting pretty frontally lit. Like, if you look the area around this eye and this eye, it's pretty similar. And I'm wondering if we can't push the position of the key light more around the side. I think that would definitely help out. And yeah, because we want to see more of the light shadow. Because like, and then over here, yeah, because same thing here. It's just like all being lit. Her face is mainly the frontal lit area. And then actually this shadow that's just like really dark, and it just makes it look like kind of a bruise. So I would, if you're going to come all the way around this way, it's a little, you know what? Don't worry about that for now, because as we reposition the light, that may change. But I would work on creating a light position that helps us generate more of a distinct key side and fill side of her face. And yeah, I mean, I always think we could go more dapple in the background. So if you want to keep adding some sun hits to some of this stuff, that would be very big too. Yeah, I think that's good. We'll work from there. Sylvain, cool stuff. I think these eyelings are a little sharp. They're a little bit distracting, but I love the underlight. Love these shapes we're getting up here, because it's just like a weird shadow to get on his forehead that helps tie it in. Totally fine if you want to add some more geo to the hair. The one nice thing about it is you might even be able to duplicate and offset it slightly, and that could work. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I would also maybe consider plugging in that hole, like something about that in this lighting setup that's a little odd to me. And then the other thing I would just take a stab at another pass at maybe his lips, because his lips feel a little like lipsticky, I guess. It's just they feel too saturatedly orangey red, and they're not even quite put on, like it doesn't extend all the way to the sides here. And again, none of this is an issue with your work. I think that's probably how it's just imported. But I would maybe take a stab at cleaning up those lips a little bit. But overall, I think this is looking, it's really, really good. It's a really, really strong take on this character. Maybe make his eyebrows white too if you can. Give that a try. All right. Well, that is it for everyone today. Thank you guys for sticking with it. I know this is a bit of a longer one, but it usually happens on Mondays. So again, check out the Intro to Maya class. Super excited about that. And please let me know what you guys need. All right. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Happy lighting, everybody.